Program loaded and ready.
We are the Borg. Lower your shields and surrender your ships. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service us. Resistance is futile.
This town needs an enema.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get laid.
It's the Josh Zodiac Podcast.
I was frozen today.
On this episode of the Josh Zodiac Podcast, we'll be talking about history, but we'll be talking about sports history this week. We will also be talking about the number one song and movie from 1989. A great year. I was 14. Fuck you if you think I'm old. And a special guest. We will have Mr. Anthony Cruz on the show. We will plug his YouTube channel. We'll talk about the college football playoffs, the playoff setup, the transfer portal, and so many other college football topics. And, of course, we will have our John Cena promo of the week at the end of the episode. You don't want to miss this episode. I'm very happy and excited for this one. This is the Josh Zodiac Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Josh Zodiac Podcast, the greatest podcast you've never heard of. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. This is the podcast that has no agenda and no real script, as far as you know. This is the podcast that believes that the real problem in Big D in the Dallas Cowboys is Jerry Jones, and he needs to go away, like yesterday. Got a great show for you guys today. I am definitely going to be going over my usual history and music and movie number one of a certain year. But the meat and potatoes today is I have a very special guest on the show today. He is a former colleague back home in Corpus. We worked together in All Content when it was still around. I did do his show. He has a YouTube channel on the show he does called The Heart of College Football. I am talking about none other than Anthony Cruz. He will be on the show. We will be talking about the college football season, different topics that have happened through the year, and looking forward to the future. So he will be on the show later in the program. But for the moment, I do want to talk about, normally I talk about historical events, like, stuff you read in a textbook from college or high school or whatever. But today I figure since we just had the college football playoffs and we're going into the Super Bowl, why not talk about sports? So we're going to go over this week in history in sports. And the first one is definitely one near and dear to my heart. In 1960, the NFL announced the creation of two new franchises, the Minnesota Vikings and, of course, my beloved Dallas Cowboys. 1960 was their inaugural year. They did horrible that year. I don't think they won a game all year. I think they won 0-12. But it is what it is. Also, this week in history, O.J. Simpson was the first pick in the 1969 NFL draft when he went to the Buffalo Bills. Went there and broke a bunch of records as far as I know. Excuse me. Let's find some more interest. Oh, here we go. Wayne Gretzky, arguably one of the greatest hockey players of all time. I personally am not a hockey fan. I don't know the rules, but I'll watch them beat the crap out of each other. No big deal. But this week in 1984, he played for Edmonton. The Oilers, I believe, is the name of that team back then. And he had a record point scoring streak of 51 games. In hockey, that's incredible. Hockey is not known for having big scores like, it's like 3-2 or 2-0 or whatever. For the fact that the man had a scoring streak, I believe that means goals and or assists or both. So 51 games is actually pretty fucking impressive. Let's see. Here we go. For you tennis fans out there, this week in 1989, Australian Open women's tennis champion Steffi Graf of Germany beat Helena Sakova 6-4, 6-4 to get her 6th career Grand Slam title and her 2nd Australian singles crown. I hate to admit this, but back in the day, I did watch tennis, especially women's tennis. I was a fan of Jennifer Capriati. I was in love with Jennifer Capriati. She was my age too. We were the same age, so I definitely was like super. Like back then, I loved 3 women. Well, 4: Carrie Fisher, Paula Abdul, Debbie Gibson, and of course Jennifer Capriati. Damn it! 15-year-old me is like, quit talking about me. I am getting a boner. This week in 1990, we had Super Bowl 24 at the Louisiana Superdome, not the Silverdome, Hulk Hogan. The Superdome, those that know what I'm talking about, thank you for laughing. San Francisco versus the Denver Broncos. Final score was 55-10. Niners just destroying the Broncos. I remember watching that game and like, oof, it was just bad. Just disgusting watching that team lose the way they did. Also this week, in 1996, which sadly was the last time they made this game, Super Bowl 30, or the Super Bowl XXX, Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, Arizona. The Pittsburgh Pirates were beaten by my Dallas Cowboys 27-17. And that, my friends, was the last time the Dallas Cowboys even had a chance at a Super Bowl. Also this week in 2001, I remember watching this game too. You had Super Bowl 35 at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. The Ravens of Baltimore beat the New York Giants 34-7. Defensive player Ray Lewis was the MVP of that particular game. And let's see, there's got to be something else in here. I don't care about that. Sorry, I'm just kind of scrolling here. Everything else on here is NFC Championship games. I will talk about this. Back in 2017, the Australian Open women's tennis, Serena Williams defeated her older sister, Venus Williams, 6-4, 6-4 for her 7th Australian title and her record 23rd Grand Slam. That's fucking impressive. I'm sorry. I don't really follow tennis like I used to. Kind of grew out of it after high school or whenever Capriati. Although, funny side story, my mom, way back, I was still in the Navy at the time and I was not married yet. My mom met Martina Hingis, who I had a little crush on. She was so fucking cute. My mom met her, showed her my picture, and then called me on my cell phone to tell me she was talking to Martina Hingis, which, my mom never lied to me that I know. So it definitely put me on the spot. That was just a funny side story to a little bit of tennis. The year I'm picking for my number one movie and music hit is going to be 1989. Another great year. If I'm not mistaken, this was the year of the first real blockbuster, which was Batman with Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson. Excuse me. But this week in particular, the number one movie was Rain Man, starring Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. And I am going to get some shit for this, but I have never seen the movie Rain Man. I know. I'm losing credibility here. I know. Yeah. Y'all can go fuck off. Seriously. But no, I definitely want to watch that movie. I hear it's really good. Dustin Hoffman, I believe, got an Oscar win. I think that was the same year that Tom Hanks was in for Big, and Tom Hanks lost to Dustin Hoffman because, you know what, I'm not going to go down that road with Tropic Thunder and what Robert Downey Jr. says. I'm not trying to get canceled. So, moving on to the song this week. It's a song I may have heard of before, may not. It's by Phil Collins. It's called Two Hearts. I may have to hear that one. I don't know that song that well. But definitely that was your number one song back in late January of 1989. Looking on here, there's a lot of good songs that became number one, including my favorite, Paula Abdul. And this is definitely the year of the blockbuster. I think, besides Batman, I believe the Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out this year. Was this the year that Star Trek 6 came out? I forget. It was 5 or 6, one of the two. I know we had I think I already said Back to the Future. But yeah, just a lot of good movies came out this year. Definitely a lot of historical stuff going on there. That's not the norm. I'm so unprepared, and I apologize for that. But, it is what it is. I'm just excited to talk to Anthony about college football. So stick around. I will be back momentarily, and we will have Mr. Anthony Cruz on the show to talk about college football. We'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Josh Zodiac podcast. And I have a very special guest on the show today. He and I used to be wrestling buddies back home in Corpus Christi, Texas, with the now defunct All Content Entertainment. But now he also has his own show called The Heart of College Football. None other than Anthony Cruz. Anthony, how are you today, sir?
I'm good, buddy. Everything's going awesome. We're now setting up new homes. Everything is just great. I can see the future. Fucking awesome.
And I understand that you had moved from Marble Falls. Is that where you were before?
Yes, we got started in Marble Falls, Texas. We are now basing our operations in Waco, Texas.
Waco, Texas, the home of Dr. Pepper, Big Red, and Jennifer Love Hewitt. Yeah, I can get behind that.
Don't forget Steve Martin.
Oh, you know what? I didn't know he was from Waco. Mind blown.
He was born in Waco.
Damn. No wonder I like Steve Martin. He's so fucking cool. Before we get into our topics that we're going to talk about, I do want to kind of give your page a bit of a shout out if you want to kind of promote yourself here a little bit and talk about the heart of college football for me.
Certainly, man. Basically, what we are is a fan page on Facebook currently. We also have a YouTube channel under the name The Heart of Sports Network. We basically are a premier fan page for basic info on the entire college football season, breaking news when it happens, and of course our content when it comes to the biggest games of the week, and of course the biggest game of the week, which we call Game of the Week. You can find it on our Facebook page under the Big Game Lineup videos.
And I can attest to that because I did a couple of episodes of that before I did my move to Oklahoma. It definitely lit a fire back in the college because prior to doing the show with you, college football was just like, I'll watch the Red River Shootout and I might watch Notre Dame and USC, and I was pretty much all I cared about. But after doing your show, it kind of lit a fire in me. Like, I need to start watching college football because at the end of the day, college football is where it's at. They're playing for pride, not for fucking money. So
exactly,
totally get that. So we'll promote that again later. But I do want to know, the college football playoffs are over. The headache that was the playoffs is finally come and gone. I'm curious what your thoughts were on the actual playoff setup itself.
Personally, I did like it. As much as people were worried about cheapening the sport, I really thought that the idea of this format being 12 teams with 4 first-round buys, now I'll get to that in a second, but the idea of 12 teams in one playoff format would be game-changing for the entire sport, mostly because of the fact that anything could happen and the right team will win the national championship.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And someone had said, or no, it was actually Josh Pate that said this, is that group of 5 teams per se wouldn't win with this format because they would have 4 games to win the title, but you also got to face previous blue bloods. But I think personally, even if they don't have the higher percentage chances that they did if they were in a 4-team playoff, because Cincinnati was a 25% chance to win the Natty when they went in 2021, I believe. And then, of course, TCU in 2023, they had 25% chance to win the national title when they went in there. But now they have a, let's say, 10% chance to even make the semifinals.
Yeah.
But you could look at it that way, but also look at it this way. Maybe they don't have to win the national title. Maybe that's not what they're used for in this concept. If you ever look back at NCAA March Madness, and you have 64 teams, some of them you didn't even know existed or were even Division I to begin with, they're still in the tournament. Would they have a chance to win a national title at Division I basketball? Maybe, but it's like 1% at best.
Yeah.
So you're like, well, what the heck are they in there for? It's literally to shake the system. Because how many times would you go on YouTube and you Google March Madness? You're not the first. What's it called? The word I'm thinking of. The first search result that you get, it won't say buzzer beaters or greatest highlights. No, the first thing you're going to look for is upsets.
Yep, 100%.
It goes viral. It shakes up the entire bracket and shapes the landscape of the sport as it is. So when you take Arizona State and you saw how they took Texas to the wire in the Peach Bowl,
yep,
then you realize, oh crap, what if Arizona State had beaten Texas? This whole playoff could have shifted, and who knows who would have won the national title.
That's very true. And talking about March Madness, I do remember like forever, just the 1 versus 16, never had an upset for like 50, 60 years. And I think back in 2018 or 2019, a number 16 finally did it. And I'm like, dude, this is fucking history that we're seeing.
Exactly.
It was so cool. And it definitely, for someone who does a bracket every year, I was like, dude, what the fuck, dude? You just ruined my entire bracket. I'm like, dude, and that's the team I picked to win, was the number 1 team. I'm like, dude, fuck it. I ripped it up and threw it away. Like, I'm done. I'm out. So definitely having those, those other teams in the football, and it looks very similar to what the NFL does with their playoffs. It's very similar. It's the same format anyway, except they get 4 teams get the bye versus the 2. So
exactly.
But speaking of that, we're talking about the 12 teams. Should the playoffs be 12 teams, or should they go back to 8 or maybe even 10, or maybe some even number like that?
I think personally, because of the way we saw all 4 first-round byes get eliminated,
mm-hmm.
I think personally how we could tweak it is to get rid of the number 3 and number 4 bye week. So give the first 2, which would be, if it was last year, it would be Oregon and Georgia. They would have gotten the bye, and then you would have added 2 more teams to take over and fill in for the 3 and 4 slot. Because if you look at the calendar from when the last team played in the conference title to the bye week, it is like, I would say, an entire month?
Yeah.
So that's a lot of rust game-wise, and you don't really want to, you don't want to stay away from the field too long because, like I said, you rust, and then you fall really quickly, and that's literally what happened with every single playoff. So I would take away the third and fourth seed, and put it with a 13th and 14th seed, and then you would have a 14-team playoff with the first 2 seeds getting a bye.
Now, see, my perspective on this is a little bit different. It might be a bit controversial, but it makes sense if you think about it. Because I think what they should, and they do this with every conference, the ACC, the SEC, the Pac-12, all that stuff. Whoever wins their conference is in the playoff. Period.
Right.
That's the way it should be. Not, Michigan didn't win the Big Ten, or not, Ohio State didn't win the Big Ten, but we're going to throw them in anyway. Fuck that. I don't want to see an overload of SEC teams just to watch them get bounced out in the first fucking round. I want to see every team that wins their conference in some sort of playoff. I think there's 11 or 12, so that it works. So, and they should do what they do with the whole March Madness thing where they're doing the brackets. You just kind of figure out, okay, this strength of schedule, who did they beat, and take away the whole, well, they're in the SEC. No, take that away, because the SEC lately has not been dominant. They've been decent, but they weren't what they were when Alabama was running the field. So
the way things are going now, I wouldn't really expect the SEC to stay dominant per se. I probably could have Texas and Georgia playing for the SEC title for the next 3 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly, because they're only going to get better, and they're already good as it is. So my thing on that is still do the 12 teams. Have the buys, whatever, but you have one team per conference, period. I don't need Oregon and USC playing in the same tournament. I don't need Texas and Texas A&M or even Georgia in the same tournament. I don't need Michigan and Ohio State in the same tournament. No, one team. That way there's no argument. Like, people were like, oh, well, Ohio State beat Texas, or they beat Notre Dame and Texas, but they couldn't beat Michigan. So that's the argument that, oh, well, they couldn't beat their division rival, but they won the national title.
You could, but at the same time, if you look at the NFL playoffs, how many times did Washington lose to the Cowboys this season? Probably one. And if they had made it to the Super Bowl, they would have been like, well, they lost to the Cowboys. If they win against the Chiefs, does it really make it like big deal? And, it's a slippery. I don't want to say slippery slope, but like a really tricky area, because I really feel like you do have to have the any given Saturday kind of mentality, because we are in a new era of this. Because, if we go back to the BCS era, one loss and you were basically done. No matter 100%. How good you were, there was only 2 slots to fill, and you had 134 Division 1A schools fighting for the national title. So it's tricky, because when you look back at 2023 with TCU beating Michigan, but they lost their conference title against Kansas State, but they still put TCU in, and you saw that they could beat a Michigan. You're like, okay, they obviously did deserve to be in that playoff because they could hold their weight against the Michigan.
Yeah.
So I really think it more depends on who is in this playoff rather than what they've accomplished or didn't, because you're right. If you look at it from a certain perspective, or this perspective, that, hey, Ohio State losing to their hated rival literally inspired them to just keep pushing and persevering. They just won a national title.
Yeah. And
personally, I didn't even watch much of the Notre Dame game, national title game, because I knew what was going to happen. And when I did click the TV on, I mean, everything I knew was going to happen happened, and I knew Ohio State was the winner. I told my best friend, I said, if the winner of Texas and Notre Dame was going to be the national title or champion, and I was right.
And it's funny.
Did the team I want win? No, obviously not. But still, though, I knew that one of those teams was going to win the national title.
And it's funny too, because I'm a fan of both Texas and the Irish, and I'm just like, oh no, if they both play each other in the national title, who the fuck? I'm walking into Twin Peaks with 2 hats on. Like, okay, I like both teams, so I really don't care who fucking wins. But it's like, do you go with the blood or do you go with the heart? Because
exactly.
Growing up in Texas, you're either a Longhorn fan or an Aggie fan. That's just the way it is. And the fact that I'm Irish, of course, I've loved Notre Dame since I was a kid. So, back in the Lou Holtz era, the Catholics versus the convicts, all that bullshit. I was there for all that, and I fucking loved it. It was great. But
are you excited for next year's Catholics versus convicts game?
The way Miami played this year, you goddamn right I am.
Exactly. I'm excited. Dude, week 1 is going to be fucking amazing. We need to really get back. We need to come back and talk about it before the games go on, because, bro, week 1 is going to be like the week for college football.
And you you may or may not know this, but I will never say no to a friend if they want me to be on their show or their podcast. Like, if you want me to be on, I'll fucking just tell me when, and I'll put it in ink on the calendar. Okay, here we go. Heart of College Football on this day. I will fucking be there.
I've always wanted to be on the show, but I hate inviting myself because I'm like, I'll just wait till he invites me because it'll look.
I get that because my buddy Ben, he's got his own podcast, the Recycle Corn, and he's part of the reason why I do the podcast. He was always like, dude, just fucking do it. If you can get past the 5th episode, you're a success. And here I am. And here I am this is going to be episode, I think 27 now, or 28. I forget. I lose count. And, right. I'm like, I want to be on, but I don't want to say anything. I love being on and talking about, topics that excite me. But no, man, when it comes to football or sports in general, in the future, I will have no problem going, hey, Anthony, you want to be on the show? even professional wrestling, I would have no problem with that. So
exactly.
So, but yeah, like I said, I do. And you talk about the BCS being shitty. It was worse before the BCS when it was like, okay, you would have number 1 and number 2 play each other, and then number 2 would win. Oh, well, they're going to share the title. I'm like, what kind of bullshit is that? Number 2.
Oh, there's a video of that about that. I have to show you. I'm going to send you a link to it because exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
They feel the exact same way.
I think it was Nebraska and Miami, or I forget who it was like back in the 80s, back when, computers weren't even a thing yet.
It was more than that. It not just them. A lot of teams would split the title.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that there was no national title game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but here in Waco, Texas, we are headquarters of the American Football Coaches Association, and that's the group that sponsors, or not sponsors, but they award the Crystal Football every year.
Oh, no way! Oh, that's badass.
Yes.
Oh, fuck yeah!
Hey. Right at the beginning of the campus of Baylor University, which I'm a fan of as well.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, because like I said, this place is where I fell in love with college football.
Yeah,
and when I wrestled, I made sure to let everybody know, especially if I was wrestling under the Heart of College Football name. I made sure to know that home is Waco, Texas.
And me being a wrestling heel, I gotta talk shit about the home team. So like, oh, you know what? The Waco Bears, they could suck these nuts or some stupid shit like that, just to get the crowd to be like, boom.
This year was the year to do it, but this is probably going to segue to the next question. Is the transfer portal is going to skyrocket Baylor. Like, I'm calling it now. I am putting them at the number 2 spot in the way too early of the Big 12 because of their transfer portal additions.
See, but it's not going to matter because, the good teams that were in the Big 12 are now in the SEC. So it's like, oh, shit. Texas left, Oklahoma left, A&M left years ago.
Exactly.
There's really nobody in the Big 12 anymore. It's like, well, shit. Okay, well.
Well, here's why I like it. Because now that Texas and Oklahoma are gone from the Big 12, there is now a wide open space for the crown to be taken, so to speak, for the Big 12.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, they're gone. Who's going to step up now? And I've always felt like Baylor's a little bit more historic in the conference. And, of course, with their success in the old Southwest Conference, I figured it's going to be like the new Texas and Oklahoma is going to be Baylor and Oklahoma State. When you really think about it, in my personal opinion.
So you're saying that the Texas and the Oklahoma rivalry will convert to Baylor and Oklahoma State, which will be the Timu of these teams.
Maybe not them two teams specifically, because the real rival is TCU for Baylor. But
yeah,
still, but what I mean, like historically, when you really look at like all the teams in the current Big 12, you got BYU, you got Colorado, but I mean, when you really think about the actual history of the Big 12, to me, it's Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech.
Yeah. The Big Four, yeah.
Oh, exactly. I think those are the Big Four of the conference, even though right now I think the top teams this year will be BYU and Baylor in the Big 12. As for number 1 and number 2, I wouldn't know because I have to see their spring game. A lot of transfers are coming in for Baylor this year. BYU, they are returning a few starters. So it's a wide open conference in my personal opinion, and I think that's good for the sport because nobody's a powerhouse until they start winning their conference.
It's true, 100%. Now, I've been viewing the transfer portal as free agency for college. And anybody who knows me knows I am not the biggest fan of free agency. I think it's ruining the game. People are playing for money versus pride or championships these days. And now it's kind of trickling down to college. Like, oh, well, there's a guy who plays for Army. I cannot think of his name. No, the Army-Navy game came and went. Navy won. He's like, I want to transfer to Georgia, or I forget where he wants to go. And I'm like, you really can't do that because you are obligated to Army for the 4 years you go to college and then another 4 serving under the uniform. And that's pretty much
unless his service is already up and he was playing there just to finish out the season.
And that's just it, though. Yeah, that's not for the academies. It doesn't really work that way. You got to do at least the 4 years in college, graduate, and then you get shipped out to the fleet or whichever one you serve. You got to do at least the 4. Some do 6. I think Staubach did 6. I could be wrong, but But
I'd have to look that one up.
And I know I only know Staubach because he's a cowboy and he went to Navy and he's double dipping in my So, but I don't agree with if you go to say Texas Tech and you're a 5-star recruit, you're doing really well, but you're like, you know what, I want to go play for Oklahoma or I want to go play for Georgia. I don't agree with that. You've already signed a contract and you've already obligated yourself to said school for if you want to go in the draft. And that's different. But I feel like you've signed a contract. You're breaking a contract. You're pretty much, it's almost like they're asking for, what CD and Dak did this year. Oh, I want more money. It's the same thing. Just there is some money involved in the NIL, which is a whole nother thing. So, I just don't agree with that. Like you sign the contract, do your time at the college you picked, and then if you want to go to the NFL, go to the NFL. It's that simple. And if you're a good player on a mediocre team, you're going to stand out more than a great player on a even better team. Maybe my philosophy is wrong, but I'm like, I would rather be a good player. I want to be on a good team, obviously, but if I'm college, if I want to go to the pros, I want as much attention on me as possible. So
the way to really think about it, and this is just my thinking, is yes, there is a lot of NIL money in a lot of these schools, like a Texas, Ohio State, even a Miami or Oklahoma. You look at it, there's a lot of factors to the transfer portal that you have to take into consideration when it comes to a player making a decision. Is my coach staying with us? And if he's not, do I want to play for the next captain coming in on the ship? Because the old coach was the one that brought you in, not this new one. And he's basically coming in to see if he can win with you. And you're like, okay, well, hold on. It's like, do I believe in his philosophy? Is his philosophy the same as mine? Am I going to really be able to, maybe not respect, that's kind of like a stretch, but to understand and work under him and follow his lead. And then you also got to take into consideration who's coming in, you got these hot shot freshmen, 5 stars, 4 stars that could come in and really take your spot before you even step foot on the field again. So it goes back to attention. You want to make sure, am I going to play? And if I play, are people even going to care about this team to notice? Because, yes, Ashton Genty plays for Boise State and was a Heisman runner-up, but in reality, if he wasn't at Boise State and was at a Toledo or a Miami of Ohio, would anybody have really paid attention? No. Because college football has always been a pony show. It's all about what looks pretty rather than what is actually good,
Yeah.
even if it's ugly. Because if Travis Hunter wasn't playing for Colorado and Deion Sanders and was playing for an Iowa, I don't think he would have gotten the attention, and I think Ashton Genty would have won the Heisman. So if you're a player and you're like, well, I need to go somewhere where eyeballs are looking at this team, whether it's on the screens or in person, putting butts in seats. So that's another way. And then, of course, NIL and money, because if you look back at the old rules, a coach couldn't even buy you a burger without getting suspended.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like about these new rules is that if, like, say, an emergency happens and a player needs to either go home for a little bit, like, say, like, God forbid, like a family member dies and, they need to go see, they need to go home and take care of some things before they come back. And the coach is like, okay, I'll pay for it, or their school will do it. They won't get in trouble for doing such. And then, of course, personal, needs as well. If you're in college and you don't have much money, especially if you're on scholarship, and you're like, hey, how the heck can I make money? Then, of course, that's when you use your name, image, and likeness to make money. And I don't know if you've noticed now, but a lot of college athletes are doing commercials for themselves, especially local commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Quinn Ewers here in Texas does lawyer commercials, and he doesn't even have the Longhorn on his jersey. It's a burnt orange plain jersey with his number.
Yeah.
And so he's making all the money in that commercial and makes royalties based on that. So you could say that it's out of control, and in some respects it is. I'm not going to lie and say it's perfect. It's not. But I feel like if you can tweak it a few ways, add obligations to the contracts, I'm sure a lot more players would stick to the transfer portal. But you also got to understand the transfer portal is also open for a certain amount of time in the middle of the postseason, because it's still under the old bowl system. Yes, where there was only it's still under that system where there's only one national championship game and all these bowl games. When they still now they have to catch up and realize, hey, this is now a month-long postseason process, and we need to either push back the transfer portal or scoot it up. And I think the coaches just actually voted to delay the portal opening, but that still has to go through the NCAA.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about these guys in college making a little bit of money. I wouldn't say I was a starving college student, but I was going to school on a GI Bill. I got from the military, but I understand that money can be tight. So exactly. I'm not opposed to them getting like a little bit of an allowance of it. I'm not saying they have access to all 3, 5, 10 million, whatever the amount of money is, but have them an allotment of money they can use per month, for, if they want to go out and have a burger one day, or if they want to treat their fucking offensive lineman if he's a quarterback, more power to him,
Mm-hmm.
But don't have access to all that money. It kind of gives you a really bad, at least to me, is like, this is just to be a taste of what it's like in the NFL. And it's like, it's bad enough that these guys are already like getting money hungry in the NFL as it is. You don't want to do it to the college players. And that's pretty much where I'm coming from. I want to keep the college game as pure as it possibly can. Yeah, I get it. There's some bad shit that happens, and it does happen. But at the end of the day, college is about those stickers they put on those helmets.
Exactly.
It's all about that. It's not about, oh, you know what? I made 20 million endorsements this year. No, I just won the fucking national championship. Even if it was against my fucking Irish, good for them,
Exactly.
And and like I said, I'm not a fan of free agency, but I just don't want these college kids to get corrupted. No,
I understand 100%. And like I said, once like this playoff system gets settled, and of course the NCAA can figure it out, I'm pretty sure we'll be able to tweak it a little bit,
mm-hmm.
a little bit better, and of course get it to like a little bit more stable, and of course, legislate, of course, the new NIL rules, and eventually do the salary cap.
And it's still new. It's still a new thing. There's still going to be some bugs in the system. It's like getting a new iPhone. You never buy the iPhone right away. You always wait till the first update. So I get that. I mean, it's still to be determined if it's good or bad. Everybody's going to have their opinion about it. But as long as it's moderated properly, I don't have a problem with it. You know, fucking pay these guys. You know, they're athletes. They're putting their bodies on the line in college. Give them a couple bucks. No big deal.
Exactly.
Anything you want to add to everything we talked? I know we covered a lot, so we had a lot on our plate today. So, anything you want to add to anything we talked about?
Well, just basically in a nutshell, we recently lost a lot of our followers on Facebook. So if everybody can just hit that like button, get us back to where we started. We left off at 1,200 followers.
Damn.
We're trying to get them back with. We're trying to get back at it. We're still ironing out a lot of things, but once we get it, I promise we're gonna be back in our glory days. We're gonna hit our golden age. I'm excited. A lot of new things are happening. I can't mention yet because they're still coming into fruition, but I promise you, this season's gonna be our biggest one yet.
I can't wait. Hopefully, I get to be a part of that. And again, tell us the name of the channel and the page and all that, because you know. I'm old. I forget shit.
Right now, we have it. It's under the Heart of College Football. If you look on the profile page, you'll see a close sign. We're closed for the season, but still keep pushing that like button because when we finally open up in July, we're going to have a lot of new content for everybody. So the Heart of College Football on Facebook.
Oh, but I just got a text message from a fan who likes the page that you're closed. Yeah, they're not very happy with you right now. Yeah, oh yeah, come on. It's okay, guys. He'll be back up in no time, I promise. All right, well, Anthony, I do want to thank you for being on the show. I'm hoping this is the first of many collaborations we do. And again, you and I are both fans of a lot of the same things, sports, wrestling, shooting the shit, all that good shit. So for the time being, I want to say thank you for being on the show, and I hope to have you on again. And I will be right back with the closing of this episode.
Thank you for having me, brother.
Not a problem, my friend. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I want to thank Mr. Anthony Cruz for being on the show. I know it was kind of short notice. I'd been wanting to do something like this. I was going to do the college football thing solo, but I couldn't think of anybody better to have on the show to talk college football than the creator and the host of the Heart of College Football. Anthony, I definitely will have you on the show again. That was an experience that I truly did enjoy. Couple of things before we end the show. As we know, the Rumble is around the corner this weekend. I'm recording all this on Monday, the 27th. The Rumble will be this weekend. I may have Anthony on the show. He said he was interested. I will know more down the road. But I definitely will be doing my picks, reaction, and review of the Rumble as we get ready to go back into WrestleMania season again. It seems like only a year ago I was starting this podcast, and that actually is coming up soon. And another episode idea that I have that I need to get a hold of Scuba about is we're going to do, Scuba and I both have birthdays in December, a couple of days apart from each other. So we're going to do an all birthday / Superman type episode. At least that was on paper. I will get a hold of him about recording that. But again, as we know, with the Rumble around the corner, this is the retirement year of John Cena. As promised, every episode will have just a random, promo from John Cena, and the one I picked here today kind of fits. It was right after the Rumble, maybe a month after. Excuse me. And John Cena interrupts The Rock on Raw on 2/27/2012, and I will definitely give you all a shout on this one. Go ahead and just listen to what I'm still kind of overwhelmed by the conversation with Anthony earlier. So, just an awesome segment. But either way, like I said, this is John Cena interrupting The Rock on Raw back in February of 2012, and I believe this is right before Rock versus Cena 1. I could be wrong. I don't remember. I have to do a little more research on that. But here he is, Mr. John Cena.
Oh, wow! This is too much fun. I was not going to miss this. I mean, you actually referred to me as Kung Pao Chicken. Kung Pao Chicken. Only The Rock could refer to me as Kung Pao Chicken. It's genius. It's absolutely brilliant. Because every single Chinese restaurant you go to, it's always there. It's perfect, Rock. And this is perfect Rock. The Rock comes out, does his shtick, holds the millions in the palm of his hand like only The Rock can do. But I must admit, I didn't come out here to swing from the people's strudel or whatever you're calling your penis nowadays. I came out here to tell you you were right. You're right, I am that guy. I'm the guy who runs you down when you're not here. But as usual, just like everything else, you're only half right. Because I'm the guy that runs you down when you are here. You see, these people love The Rock. I was one of these people until I got to meet Dwayne Johnson. And Dwayne Johnson is a self-centered, egotistical, see-through son of a bitch. That wouldn't give a rat's ass if this company closed its doors tomorrow. Now, I'll tell you something, Jack. I don't need words like respect and loyalty to trend worldwide. Just like I don't need my notes for my promo on my wrist. Nice tattoo. So here's the skinny. April 1st, when the millions see John Cena versus The Rock, John Cena is going to be eyeing up Dwayne Johnson. And I don't like Dwayne Johnson. You probably make your boobs bounce. There'll be a thing on your eyebrow that looks like the people's eyebrow. But I'm going to be looking into the eyes of Dwayne Johnson and see a man afraid. Because you're going to be looking at a dude who may not have balls, but a dude who's going to beat the hell out of you at WrestleMania, Jack. Oh, carry on. Continue trending.
We've been planning this trip.
Oh, wow! This is too much.
Wow. Yeah, I fucked up there, but that's okay. I may or may not edit that out later. But yeah, that was the WrestleMania that year. Rock versus Cena 1. Yeah, you know, there are very few people in the world that can outlast The Rock on the microphone, and John Cena is definitely one of them. CM Punk is probably a close second, although one could debate that CM Punk is better on the microphone. I'll let y'all be the judge of that. That is not the debate we're having here today. Anyway, I do want to thank y'all for being joining me on this episode, and I do want to thank once again, I cannot thank him enough, Mr. Anthony Cruz, for joining me on the show. Like he said to everybody, go and like and follow his Facebook page, The Heart of College Football. Get those followers back up there again, guys. And yeah, the site's closed for college football, but I guarantee it's going to come out shooting hot and fire when it comes around college football season again this year. So definitely give him a follow and a like and all that stuff you do on social media. As far as for the Josh Zodiac podcast, you can find my Facebook page. Just search, like, and follow the Josh Zodiac podcast. I do put memes and news and stuff like that on there just to keep you guys entertained. You can search, subscribe, and follow the podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. YouTube, once again, is only the audio, not the video. Video is just too much of a pain in the ass. Just search the Jazz Zodiac Podcast on those. And if you have a topic you want to talk about, want to email the show, just have a question, just want to say, hey, you're doing a great job, doesn't matter. If you just want to email the show, email me at thejazzodiacpodcast@gmail.com. I definitely will read your email and give you some love or some hate, depending on what you say. I don't know. Depends on how I'm feeling that day. But once again, everybody, I do want to thank you for joining me on this adventure. I just stole that from Ben. Ben, I'm sorry. I owe you a nickel now. I'm sure you're laughing at work when you listen to this. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am the Jazz Zodiac. One thing I do want to add with the new promotion, the new wrestling promotion back home, the name is going to be changing here pretty soon. More info on that down the road. But until then, this is the Jazz Zodiac. You are listening to the Jazz Zodiac Podcast. Thank you for joining me. This is the way. It's the Jazz Zodiac Podcast.